Welcome back to Piano Turtle. Today I'm going to talk about the second audition to the Juilliard pre-college. Michelle and Mr. Faber taught me a lot. Many concepts Faber shared was also done by Michelle, but I was hardly watching her practice anymore. I teach a couple of students, and by teaching them, it helped me to practice better myself, because I had to think about explaining things to others, and that took some practice. I actually practiced talking to my students before I talked to them based on what they learned in the previous lesson. I spent a lot of time self-talking, and that helped me at imagining explaining things to myself when I practice. A lot of the times it's simply, okay, be patient now, 10 times, each time upgrading, things like that. The whole journey of practicing piano is becoming very clear. In a very short time, I learned my audition pieces. Remember when Mr. Faber said, relax and take your time? Oh yeah, I didn't need to rush at all. I didn't need to memorize a piece, a movement of a piece in 1 week. Now that I understood how to do it, now that I understood how I can. He says, no, just chew on every phrase, chew on every marking, think about every detail. If there's a drop of ink, I want you to make a sentence out of it and describe it to yourself. See, that's how I look at music. More words than I see notes. Many lessons were spent talking about musicality and technique of getting it done. The technique I need to spend most of my patience on because the muscles are not smart. Mr. Faber wanted me to experiment with multiple treatments with the pieces. He often said, now play it a little more mellow. Okay, now try a little more rubato. Now play it faster than the tempo that's marked. Now try playing it slower than half tempo. All these things gave me a different experience, right? But when it came time to prepare for my second audition using those pieces, Mr. Faber told me to stay consistent to the way that I would like to play for the audition. Now sometimes he said, no, here your choice is maybe not audition material. I would recommend using the other treatment. All right, so we did kind of choreograph what the audition would be like. We did performance simulation, down to how long to bow. He also sent me to his assistant teacher, Derek, and I had 3 sessions with him. His second opinion was actually very similar to a session I did with Mr. Faber, because Mr. Faber told me to play it in multiple treatments. So one of the treatment happened to match with Derek's, and it's not really a second opinion, but another confirmation from a second source. But the only thing that was challenging was keeping the pieces fresh and not move on until after the audition, because I'm playing it a lot now, day after day, same pieces, right? Well, the day arrived. The process was exactly the same, only this time the pieces were much harder. I played the Bach Prelude and Fugue rather than a 2-part invention. I played a Beethoven Sonata, Opus 2 No. 3, the Chopin Scherzo, and Debussy's delightful little piece, Goldfish. I performed it with all the musicality I can offer. Most of the musicality was so ingrained into me, it felt natural. To battle nervousness, Mr. Faber asked me to look at each juror in the eye as I entered the room one by one and call them idiots in my mind. And on top of that, he wanted me to imagine just playing for Mr. Faber, and the rest of them are not even in the room. So I did just that, and it made me giggle that day. So I entered and looked at one of them and said, "You idiot!" And I actually giggled. And they saw me giggle. I mean, not too out loud, and saw me smile. And to them, I was just a happy kid. I bowed for 3 seconds, looking at my toes. Waited for 5 seconds before each performance, and finished strong. I walked out seeing a thumbs up, a very sneaky thumbs up from Mr. Faber. And of course, I was smiling when I was walking out as well, looking each one of them in the eye. That evening, I got a call from Mr. Faber. He said on the phone, "Ling, I have some good news. It is not official yet, but you've made it." I said, "Yay! Thank you." Then he told me he went to speak to Catherine about me. He asked her, "So do you remember the boy you sent me a year ago?" She said, "What boy? What boy?" Well, you know, the friend of your student, Michelle, do you remember? She said, "Oh yeah, what about him?" He said, "Well, he auditioned today, and he's the one that played the scherzo and the Debussy. And I saw the grade you gave him. Yes, I peeked. You know, how nice of you." She said, "Wow, that was him? Oh, you taught him well. I knew he would be good in your hands." Mr. Faber was excited to share with me the news, and he was like, "Yeah, sure," he thought. She just didn't want to take it. Anyway, that weekend, Dad took all of us to one of the best Korean restaurants in New Jersey, and we celebrated. And that is not all. Later, when I got the acceptance letter, I found out that I got 75% scholarship. Things can't get any better than that. You know, so, well, let's just say that things got real after I got in. In the meantime, Michelle's friend, Mary. Mary found out that I, the sonatina player, got into Juilliard and was surprised. She was playing Chopin and all these other greats, right? So she asked Michelle to introduce her to Catherine. This time, Catherine took her in. A year later, Michelle's friend was not accepted. What a difference different teaching styles make. How to build a pianist is not the same thing as maintaining a pianist.